left on Thursday night. I was invited by Chairman David Obey, the Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and the Chairman of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, John Murtha, to travel with them on a bipartisan CODEL to check the progress of both the surge, the changes in Iraq, in the infrastructure, and also to take a look at the new embassy that we paid for, has been built, and we're going to begin moving employees into that new embassy at this time. Some of the things we did while we were there, and of course my briefings would have been exactly the same as Obama's briefings, and so you've seen some of what he talked about. We met with Ambassador Ryan Crocker. Poor guy. He's a Spokane fellow, and it seems to be the one that always gets sent to the hot spots. He was sent to Afghanistan, and after that he was sent to Pakistan, and then after that he ended up the ambassador in Iraq. And so he's kind of the State Department's go-to guy. He's career foreign service. Got a lot of experience, and if I were to give my personal assessment of the fellow, he reminds me a lot of Henry Kissinger. He is just very bright, very well respected, and just frankly a tired individual right now because of all the balls he's had to juggle. We also met with General Petraeus. We were given a briefing of the surge itself, the timelines, the various hotspots, where things are going, from the time of the announcement of the surge to today, and we can talk a little bit about that. I always take the opportunity to gather a group of Montana soldiers and had a delightful meal with some individuals from Missoula and Billings, Marine, Army. Didn't get a chance to sit down with any Air Force this time, but or any naval members, but there were Marines and Army involved. Took the opportunity as well, if you're familiar with the program called USAID or USAID, they're an opportunity for America to help the people of a country that we're involved in. And when I served on the Foreign Ops Committee of the Appropriations, I was more intimately involved in USAID, but we have programs going throughout the world. This one is a little more difficult because it is not necessarily a secure area, although many of the places are, but it's considered a hardship duty. And so most of the USAID people are government employees. They go in for a year and they go back out. We also have private contractors that we work with on infrastructure reconstruction, and we met with some of the team leaders from various companies that are doing business, helping to rebuild pipelines, transmission lines, and to the best of the Iraqi people's ability, using their oil revenues from their oil industry, getting back up and running to pay for the reconstruction. That's not something that the United States government necessarily pays for, because we want a major commitment on their part. So we met with the team leaders of the reconstruction effort, and then ultimately we met with Ambassador Crocker again just for a final wrap-up. If I were to give you my personal opinion, now this was my third trip into Iraq. I just happened to be in traveling on a Iraq trip in 2003, November of 2003, when Saddam Hussein was caught, which is how I always remember exactly where I was. I also had the opportunity then to travel to Iraq again exactly 2 years later in November of 2005. I was not particularly impressed with the changes that I saw from 2003 to 2005, and maybe I was a little harsh in my assessment because 2003 was shortly after we went in. I got to see a lot of the damage, the bombed out buildings, the pipelines which are cement ditches, which did not have water in them, and didn't particularly see a lot of growth in the agricultural sector. When I went back in 2005, again, I didn't see as much change as I had hoped. I saw progress, and that's, I think, how I couched it when I talked to the media in 2005. But I probably said that a long ways to go. If I didn't, I will say now, having been there in July of 2008, I did see a lot of progress. Not only in the briefing we received from Petraeus showing us where problems no longer are of the severity that they were before, places where you had to have security to move around. Now you can walk the streets, and you're starting to see commerce. You're not seeing people just sitting around. People are getting back and going back to work. I would be so bold as to say that the surge has worked. And in looking at the progress, when you're just flying over in the helicopter to get into the green zone, you see the ditches full of water. You see the crops growing. You see people pulling wagons around with tractors with agricultural products. You're starting to see the micro loan programs working where small business people are actually getting up and running their small businesses again. So employment has picked up within the country. So again, I was there 2003 and 2005, and I definitely saw a marked improvement between November of 2005 and July of 2008. So that pretty well completes the trip. It was a fast in and out. Didn't have a chance to go to Afghanistan this time. Would like to have, but that wasn't part of the agenda, and I was strictly at the scheduling of Chairman Obey and Chairman Murtha. So essentially, I was along for the ride. I appreciated them inviting me, and look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Representative Rehberg?
Yes.
This is Katie Oyen from the Associated Press. Helena.
Yes.
I was wondering if your trip changed your mind on any policies regarding the war in Iraq, and how many Montana soldiers you met, if you remember any of their names.
Yeah, let me grab the list right here, just because I gathered the name tags. Active duty, Lieutenant Colonel Pat Daly from Missoula. Interestingly, he got his BS at MSU, his MBA from the University of Montana. He's got 3 children, and he was the Missoula Sentinels high school quarterback for the East-West Shrine game. Kind of fun to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Daly. Met with Lieutenant Colonel Canning, and he is from Flaxville, Montana. Lieutenant Colonel Marsh, Matt Marsh. He lives in Forest Park subdivision in Billings, so right off Rehberg Lane. We were kind of laughing about that. He's right under the rims, and he's there with the reserve. Matt's in the Marine Reserve. One gentleman came over because his 2 son-in-laws are he's over there, and he's got a couple of son-in-laws as well. His last name is spelled Dosee, and while he's from Texas, just interestingly enough, Jim and Jan Helgeson in Billings are good friends of mine, and Jan Helgeson is this gentleman's mother-in-law. So that's just a flavor of some of the people that I met with. It's always fun to have a meal with them, to hear their perspective. Like I say, some of them are active duty, others are reservists or National Guard members. And to a person, they felt that that what they were doing was important and necessary, and hope that the true story makes it through to the viewer and the reader of the American media, because the good news doesn't always make it through, and they're pretty proud of the work they're doing, and